Well, this is another example of somebody who President Trump has feuded with, has publicly disagreed with, who is now under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice. I can tell you, as it's landing here on Capitol Hill, you're certainly going to hear many of President Trump's allies publicly applauding this and justifying the move. There have been also several others who were really surprised that the DOJ went as far as to actually open up a criminal investigation into the chairman of the Federal Reserve. It's come as a surprise to some Republicans. Again, behind closed doors, some will tell you, I've been texting with Republican sources today, that many of them were surprised. Others have described it as a bit of an uncomfortable situation now for that. Nonetheless, President Trump has been very clear publicly about how he feels with respect to Chairman Powell. You just heard him talk about it there. He's openly talked about firing him. He has not made any secret of the fact that he thinks that Chairman Powell should be lowering rates. For his part, Powell usually does not respond to any of this. This has been months of social media posts and public comments. Powell, to this point, has been very quiet about the criticism he has gotten from President Trump until now. He put an end to that last night, releasing this video. Again, an incredibly unique and sort of rare thing for a chairman of the Federal Reserve to do, but he responded to the probe. This is just a chunk of what he said in a 2-minute video he released last night.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
So he also said in that video that the criminal potential charges or the investigation that he is going through is, in his words here, a pretext, he says. Now, remember, those allegations that have been floated are that he lied to Congress when discussing renovations and cost for the new building for the Fed. However, he says he feels that is simply a means to put pressure on him to do what President Trump wants him to do, which is to lower interest rates. So this is the situation now. President Trump, again, we've heard from him before. This is what he said just a couple of days before the new year with regards to the chairman here.
Well, he should resign, be a favor to the nation. But he's come close. I mean, we're getting pretty close. I would fire him. I'd love to fire him, but we're so close, maybe. Maybe I still might.
Remember, Powell's term is up in May, which means that President Trump is very soon going to have to nominate somebody to replace him. And this is an important part of the story here on Capitol Hill, because Republican Senator Thom Tillis, who serves on the Banking Committee, has said that if this probe continues, he is not going to vote to advance any nominees that President Trump puts forward. And that's important because the Banking Committee right now is split by just 2 members, which means one Republican vote against President Trump's nominees could literally block that nominee from moving forward. So Tillis does have the ability to totally stop President Trump from moving the person that he wants to take over for Powell. And Tillis says that is what he's going to do. And he said here in part, quote, if there are any remaining doubt whether advisors within the Trump administration are actively pushing to end the independence of the Federal Reserve, there should now be none. It's now the independence and credibility of the Department of Justice that are in question. So again, Republican Senator Tillis there, who is more of a moderate, but typically aligned with President Trump on policy, putting a pretty firm foot forward and saying that he doesn't want to tolerate any kind of criminal probe. He also sees this as something that the DOJ is erring in doing.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.